Welcome back. I'm Gila Ross, author of Living Beautifully and host of the Power podcast, where we share short, relatable ideas to impact and upgrade your everyday life. We're now in the time of the Omer. Right, the days between Pesach and Shavuot are called the Omer, and it's a period of mourning. For example, we don't cut hair, we don't listen to music, we don't have weddings during this time of the year. Sometimes that's why it's famous, because it's like there's no Jewish weddings during this time of the year. And does anyone know why we don't do those things?
Because this is the 24,000 that died?
Yes. Rabbi Akiva, who we're going to look a little bit into his life today, had 24,000 students, and the 24,000 students died within 33 days, just over a month at this time of the year. And that's why we commemorate that tragedy by a mourning period. Now, next week, we're going to look at why did they die and, what was behind all that happened. But I thought before we do that, let's look at Rabbi Akiva. And I'm really excited actually to share this class, because if I can pick a favorite, I think he's one of my favorite biblical personalities, because his life is just incredible, and there's like so many different things that we can learn from. It's going to be more discussion based. We'll read some of his stories and then kind of discuss together what we take away from it. The one thing I with a show of hands, who knows a lot about Rabbi Akiva or something? So this is what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to pretend that you know nothing about Rabbi Akiva, right? And why am I doing that? Not just so that the class is more interesting, that as well, but also because sometimes when we hear the story again and again and again, we kind of get accustomed to the story. But when we approach the story as though we're hearing it for the first time, we can look at it with fresh eyes, and we can kind of like things that stick out to us that wouldn't otherwise stick out to us. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend we're learning about him, reading his stories for the first time, and sort of see what stands out to us. So who would like to read source number one?
How did Rabbi Akiva begin? They say that when Rabbi Akiva was 40 years old, he had not learned any Torah. One time he was standing over a well and asked, "Who carved this stone?" They said to him, "The drips of water that fall upon it every day." They said, "Akiva, don't you know the phrase which says that waters can carve stone?" Immediately, Rabbi Akiva reasoned, if soft waters can penetrate a rock, then the words of Torah, which are as strong as iron, can certainly penetrate my heart. Immediately, he set out to learn Torah.
Okay, any sort of first thoughts that stick out to you when you hear the story?
Well, the if not now, when, which was brought up earlier, just like if not now, then when.
And it's interesting because if you look at it, the word immediately is used twice, right? It says immediately, Rabbi Akiva said, "Oh, if soft water can make a hole in a rock, then the words of the Torah can penetrate my heart." And then immediately again, he set out to learn the Torah. Why do you think it uses the word immediately twice?
He was quick to take action.
Yes. And why is that important, to take action right away?
Before you lose your gumption, so to speak.
Yeah, because I think what's unique about this story is two things that were rare. The first thing is he saw something, he kind of had an aha moment. And a lot of us, anyone here has experienced an aha moment in their life? Yes, right? A lot of us have experienced aha moments. What makes it different, though, is that immediately he applied that aha moment to his life, right? He looked at what happened and he thought to himself, "Oh, wow. This applies to my life," right? It's not just that water can have an impact on rock, and that's a very interesting, scientific fact. But he was like, "Wow, there's a parallel for here." And then second thing he does is right away he takes action, right? Immediately he sets out to learn Torah, right? Because otherwise, it's so easy to get inspired and then for the inspiration to dive down. And what Rabbi Akiva is kind of teaching us here by his actions is that when you get inspired, you have to take action. Sometimes it doesn't even matter what the action is, as long as you take an action right away to sort of put that inspiration into practice. Tell me more about what you mean.
Like I don't know, because I'm thinking I'm having some issues with getting like my kids awake in the morning, so I think I need to get them like an alarm clock. And so I'm like, do I just like immediately buy the alarm clock as like just the inspiration because I want a better, smoother morning?
So why wouldn't you buy the alarm clock right away?
Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I guess maybe, well, is this the right solution? I guess would be my first thought. Is this what's gonna work? Like, is that like,
And what if it doesn't work?
and what if it doesn't work?
If I can, I actually think that's a perfect example, right?
Yeah, okay.
That you heard something
Mhm,
and you applied it to your own life,
mhm.
right? And at the end of the day, making your morning smoother, making your family morning smoother is, I don't know if it's a mitzvah, so to speak, but it's certainly part of your avodat Hashem, right? What does avodat Hashem mean? It means your service of God. Does God want you as the mother to do what you can to ensure that your mornings go smoother? Yes,
Yeah.
right? So that is something that you should do. So what I would say is, I wouldn't say abandon it. I don't think Rabbi Akiva abandoned his sheep and ran to the thing, right? He probably finished the job that he was doing and then went to study Torah, but that is a perfect example, right? You get inspired. If you're the type of person, you know, maybe I'm the only one that can think this, that is going to forget about it between now and when you get home. Spend 2 minutes at the end of the class. We all have Amazon on our phone or whatever, right? And for it then. Again, the important thing is to do something, even if it's not going to be the right thing. I think that piece of like, but is this the right thing, right? Sometimes it gets in our way, like just do something.
Yeah.
Because even if it's not the right thing, it's going to take you a step forward.
I like
Because
that.
let's say you buy the alarm clock and it's the wrong thing, you'll have that the importance of it in your brain because you'll have done something for it. You'll try something, you'll realize it's not the right thing. Maybe it'll be the right thing, maybe it won't be the right thing, but it'll get you closer to where you
I
need
like
to
that.
be, even
Yeah.
if it's the wrong thing. So I think the important thing is to do something
Mhm.
and not worry about whether it's the right or the wrong thing.
Someone told me many years ago that if you have a thought to do something nice, just do it. And I've like kept that in my mind.
But what you were saying, Rachel, was like almost like it's divine inspiration. I don't know if you have these moments where it's like you have an idea and when you act on it right away, for me at least, every single time the result is like bigger and better than I expected. But then when I wait, I'm like, oh, I need to call that person because they expressed an interest in something, like for clients. Oh, they expressed an interest, but I'm really busy right now, so I'll call them like tomorrow. And then I wait and I forget, and then it's 4 days, and then I call and it doesn't. But if you do it right away, there's a reason that you're thinking about it. And just exercising it and doing it right away tends to yield good results.
Yeah. Thank you, Ziggy.
Something that called my attention about this that is not related to immediately is that he was 40 years old, and I've heard so many people not taking action because they're already 40.
I love that you're pointing out because it's like, if you think about it, like 40 is a chunk, right? You're somewhat set in your ways at 40. And I don't know if we're going to see this, I don't know if I concluded it, but one of the things that we learned about Rabbi Akiva is that before he had this aha moment, this metamorphosis, he was someone who hated Torah scholars, right? So it wasn't just that he was ignorant and he didn't know anything, hadn't had a chance to learn, but he hated it. And
do we understand how he had that shift?
so this is my thought, and you can agree or disagree with me about this, but I think sometimes for him to have such a strong reaction to Torah shows that there's something there, right? Like, because most of the time, you know, it's not interesting. Like, why should he hate Torah scholars, right? Why should it irritate him so much? I think sometimes the things we hate is because there's something that it threatens us about it. It's one thing to be like, it's not for me, but to hate, like to the point that we're told he used to spit at Torah scholars, right? That's pretty intense, right? So I think maybe, I don't know, that's just my thought, is maybe the hatred was because all along he knew he had the potential for it. And that's kind of why he was able to, and it's hard to make that shift, like when we're so anti something. But if you think about, like, sometimes the things that trigger us and threaten us is because it's personally threatening to us. Rabbi Akiva had to work not only did he have a later start in his life, he wasn't the type that had this like massive IQ and that Torah learning came instantly for it. He had to work very, very hard. In fact, we'll see in a minute, but he spent 24 years studying to become a rabbi. 4 years is a long time. Let's jump into source number 2. Does anyone want to? I think it can be. Anyone want to read that?
I'll read it.
Yeah, thank you.
Source 2. Rabbi Akiva and his son went to sit with the teachers of little children. He said, Rebbe, teach me Torah. Aleph Tov, he learned it. The book of Vayikra, he learned it. He kept learning until he learned the entire Torah. What character trait of Rabbi Akiva do you see?
I mean, I know what I would do if I wanted to learn something, right? Like do some sort of anonymous Googling, right? Because it's embarrassing, right? Not only did he not go and hire a private tutor who's going to teach him, but he was so humble and determined that he's like, I'm going to go and study with the little kids, right? From the beginning. Anything else that kind of sticks out to you about this point?
Often we won't do that, like as adults, it's really easy to just shy away from something we're not good at because we're more drawn to the things that we're good at, and we're not so inclined to do something that takes us outside our comfort zone. That's really a learning curve, but that's where, that's where your brain stretches and where you grow.
Yeah.
Well, and also the times and the culture where he lived, right? It wasn't acceptable, really, for an adult to begin learning like they didn't have outreach and Jewish experience and adult learning classes and things where people were, all over the place. People didn't know, but they were welcome to come and learn at their pace at whatever level they are, at whatever age they are. Like that wasn't done at that time.
Yeah, it's a massive amount of humility that it takes to be able to kind of say, I'm going to go and study with little kids, right? And from the beginning. Does anyone want to read number 3?
I can.
Thank you.
Rabbi Akiva was a shepherd of Ben Kalba Sabua. The latter's daughter, seeing how modest and noble Rabbi Akiva was, said to him, if I would become betrothed to you, would you go away to study at an academy? Yes, he replied. She then secretly betrothed to him and sent him away. When her father heard what she had done, he drove her from his house and forbade her by a vow to have any benefit from his estate. Rabbi Akiva departed and spent 12 years at the academy. When he returned home, he brought with him 12,000 disciples. While in his hometown, he heard an old man saying to her, how long will you lead the life of living widowhood? If he would listen to me, she replied, he would spend in study another 12 years. I said, Rabbi Akiva, then it is with her consent that I'm acting. And he departed again and spent another 12 years at the academy. When he finally returned, he brought with him 24,000 disciples. His wife heard of his arrival and went out to meet him. Her neighbor said to her, borrow some respectable clothes and put them on. But she replied, a righteous man regards the life of his wife. On approaching him, she fell upon her face and kissed his feet. His attendants were about to thrust her aside when Rabbi Akiva cried to them, leave her alone, mine and yours are hers. Her father, upon hearing that a great man had come to the town, said, I shall go to him. Maybe he will invalidate my vow. When he came to him, Rabbi Akiva asked, would you have made your vow if you had known that he was a great man? The father replied, had he known even one chapter or even one single halacha, I would not have made the vow. He then said to him, I am the man. The father fell upon his face and kissed his feet and also gave him half of his wealth. What stands out about the story?
Sacrifice. That's right.
Yeah.
Of his wife, yeah. I mean, and the fact that she could see in him something as well, right? Like, he was an ignorant shepherd. He was just, a no one, and yet she went against her father and all the wealth. Like they lived in poverty for 24 years because in order to support him. And yes, and he never forgot that, right? He comes back with 24,000 students, and his students are like, who is this woman? Why are you letting her come to you? And he's like, no. What I have and what all of you have is because of her, right? Like he always remembers that it's because of my wife that I became who I am. Any other thoughts, comments about that story? It's an incredible sacrifice for Torah. Yeah, and that's why he recognized what an incredible sacrifice it was, and he said that to his students, what you have, what I have is only because he encouraged me to go. And I think also what's incredible about the story is that like when he comes back after, like she's already been alone for 12 years and this neighbor's telling her like, how can you allow your husband to do it? And she's like, oh, I'd be happy to do another 12 years.
Wow.
Like,
Sorry, what that's bothered me about this story is, okay, you have her, like, you've heard her say that she's okay with you learning for another 12 years. Amazing. Can you just go say hi? You'd be
Right, that's what I
fine.
was thinking
that's
too.
all. We're gonna look at it next week is because I don't know if it's so clear from here, but the way the story is he hears this and he turns around right away. He doesn't even go into his wife and say, you know, whatever, I'm back and I'll go back. He turns like, why? And there's a lesson to it, and we'll discuss that next week.
Well, one thing he has in common with all the great patriarchs is they were all shepherds. King David and Yaakov and all of them were shepherds.
Yeah, and it's actually not a mistake. Because God sort of tests the leaders of the Jewish people by how are you going to treat the sheep, right? Are you going to show them the love and the care and the devotion that you are? In fact, there's an amazing story told about Moses. Was what happened with Moses is that there was a sheep that ran away. And he went to find the sheep, and he saw the sheep was drinking water or something, and he's like, he felt compassion for the sheep and said, oh, you must be so tired, right? Like, I think if it was me, I'd be like, oh, you know, like, what a pain, you ran away and just get back there. And what
Fall in line, sheep.
yes. Exactly. What does Moses do is he says, oh, you must be so tired from running away. He picks up the sheep and he carries him back, and it's at that point that God reveals himself in the burning bush, right? It's kind of like Hashem was looking at Moses and saying, wow, if you show compassion to the sheep that is annoying you, you are fit to be a leader of the Jewish people. So it's that ability to show love and care and devotion for lowly sheep that develops in Hashem sees like, oh, you know, you can do this for the Jewish people. That was a great point. All right, wow. Which one should we finish with? Let's finish with the one that Bob. Source number 4. Anyone wants to read his ability to see the positive?
Rabbi Akiva said in the name of Rav citing Rav Meir, and so it was taught in the name of Rabbi Akiva. A man should always accustom himself to say, whatever the All-Merciful does is for good, as exemplified in the following incident. Rabbi Akiva was once going along the road, and he came to a certain town and looked for lodging, but was everywhere refused. He said, whatever the All-Merciful does is for the good. He went and spent the night in the open field. He had with him a chicken, a donkey, and a lamb. A gust of wind came and blew out the lamb. A whistle came and ate the chicken. A lion came and ate the donkey. And he said, whatever the All-Merciful does is for good. The same night, some robbers came and carried off the inhabitants of the town. He said to them, did I not say to you, whatever the All-Merciful does is for all good? What was unique about Rabbi Akiva's ability to see the positive?
Any thoughts on that story?
Amazing faith, like beyond my
Yeah.
comprehension.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that kind of sticks out to me about this story is that he didn't wait till the end of the story, like, and when he found out why he was saved from the robbers, and then say whatever God does is whatever happens is for the good. Like in the midst of it, he was able to have faith and say whatever happens is for the positive. And I think as well of you know him looking at the prophecies and saying him and the other rabbis that were walking along the Temple Mount and saw that it was destroyed, and the other rabbis look at it and they cry because like, look what's happened to the Jewish people. Rabbi Akiva laughs and he's able to say, well, the prophecy that said that the temple was going to be destroyed came true, so surely the prophecy that says that it's going to be rebuilt is going to come true. Like in the midst of the difficulties, he's able to see the positive, which I think is really something incredible.
Doesn't that have to do? What makes me think is that when you lose somebody to death, you say the Kaddish. So you're praising God in the midst of great sadness and misery, and so you have, I mean, if that's an example.
Yeah, yeah, so that's a beautiful example, yeah.
And sometimes it's just leaning into this is what's happening, and maybe there's something bigger to it that I don't understand. Maybe there's like some rhyme and reason to it that's built into the invisible pattern of this world, and all of it.
He was just so in tune with God at that point, like that everything was God's will. So that God is running the world. Not just the whole world, but every part of his life and everything going on around. So it's just like such a very high level of awareness.
Yeah.
Was this after he studied for 24 years?
Yeah.
No wonder.
All right, so I wanna sort of close out by asking, does anyone want to share like what kind of resonated with them? Like, we looked at a lot of different character traits, his ability to act on inspiration, his ability to take inspiration and apply it to his own life, his ability to see the positive, believe in the positive, to respect his wife and that everything, to appreciate everything that she had done for him. He sacrificed as well by going away for 24 years. I mean, it's a sacrifice on his part as well. Anything that sort of resonated particularly with you? Yes, Jackie, do you want to kick us off here?
Well, I was thinking about something like, let's say I'm in a relationship with someone, whether it's my husband or a good friend, and they don't act in the way that I want them to. Like, instead of feeling bad about it, saying, there's a reason for this and it's for my good. So like, I'll just take an example. Like, let's say my husband and I have this routine where we appreciate something about each other every day. So he hasn't been doing it as much. So I says to myself, well, I'll just do it. And maybe that's good for me. I don't have to worry about his character, but for me, it's good to look for something and to appreciate something in him every day.
Beautiful. And I think at the same time, it helps us then have those conversations with other people, right? Because if we're approaching it from a place of like kindness and curiosity, then it helps us also turn around to the other person and be like, I noticed you're not doing this anymore. Like, how comes, right? When we're not doing it from such an attackive place. So I think that's a really good point, that like if we can sort of see the positive and be curious about what's going on, then it helps us have those conversations with other people. Anyone else wants to share anything that they kind of resonated or they're taking away from it? Yes.
I think being a wife and a mother, just her ability to see the potential and just how powerful that is.
Yeah.
Changes lives.
That's like the students that say it was one teacher who believed in me, went on to succeed at something.
You can always grow and change because, to the point of, well, once we often think, once you're in your phase, you're just, more or less set in your ways, but there's always an opportunity to grow and change, and your life can look completely different than it did for the first 40 or however many years of your life. At any point in time, you can always grow and make a different decision.
Actually, like Abraham and Moshe, they both had different backgrounds, but they weren't really called, even though Akiva I don't know if ever spoke to Hashem, but they weren't really called to their life mission until they were in their 70s and 80s. So it was like also a common thread that they didn't come into their purpose until much later in life.
Yeah.
They also lived really long.
Abraham lived longer, but Moshe and Rabbi Akiva both lived to 120.
And I want to share with you something that I shared on social media today.
180?
He was somewhere between 170 and 180.
Yes, 173. Yeah. 80% of Forbes 100 most powerful women list last year were over 50 years old. Right? I mean, they're saying a woman's career is a long game, normalizes pauses and shifts. But it's just a mindset, right? Like, he changed at 40, he was like, he spent 24 years. First, 24 years is a long time, right? I'm sure there were years and years and years until he actually saw growth and right. So there is, we can change. The question is, are you willing to sacrifice 24 years of loneliness to allow that to happen, right? Like, do you believe in it enough to let your husband go for 24 years and study alone, right? Like, that's an intense amount of belief, right? Like, I think the challenge we often have is I believe in that the other person can change as long as the other person does all the work to change, right? But what here is like, I'm going to support you every step of the way, and it's not going to be comfortable for either of us. And it wasn't comfortable. Like, even before he went away, they lived in abject poverty. The two of them lived in abject poverty. So if you kind of just see the beginning and the ending, it's a very romantic story. But if you look at the whole story, I think
It's a thing, and it's gonna take me some time to get my head around it.
I think the way, if I can, I think the difference here is not that one person saw something in someone else and said, I want to change this, right? Yeah. It's that Rachel said to Akiva, I see you for who you are, and I like you for who you are. I see that there is this incredible thing that can benefit us. I'm willing to sacrifice for it. Are you willing to sacrifice for it as well?
And he said yes.
And he said yes. And he did. And she did too. They're both sacrificing for the same ideal. They're both agreeing to sacrifice for something. It's not that Rachel's saying, I'll sacrifice for it, and Akiva's not going to sacrifice either, because he sacrificed as well, a lot for it, right? He lived in poverty with her. He separated, he lived by himself. He put himself through the misery of having to study with 5-year-olds as a 40-year-old. And the discomfort of having to ask questions the whole time. Like, they both sacrificed a huge amount because it was important for both of them. I think that's the difference here is that they both agreed to sacrifice for something together.
And he held up his own bargain.
And thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your feedback, and if you enjoyed this episode, you'll love my book, Living Beautifully, How to Bring Meaning, Joy, and Love into Your Life, based on the timeless wisdom of Pirkei Avot. And please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. Have a wonderful day.